The telegraph office in Red Hollow had never been so quiet. Mia Harper noticed it the moment she unlocked the door that morning. No clicking keys. No sharp staccato rhythm bouncing off the wooden walls. Just silence thick and unsettling, like a held breath that refused to let go. She set her satchel down slowly, fingers brushing the brass telegraph key as if it might wake beneath her touch. It didn't. The line was dead. Mia swallowed. A broken line meant more than inconvenience out here. It meant no warnings of rustlers, no word of approaching storms, no connection to the towns scattered like lonely dots across the plains. It meant isolation, and isolation could be deadly. She checked the battery, the wires, the relay. Everything inside the office was sound. That means it's out there, she murmured to herself. Out there was miles of rough land-rocky ridges, narrow passes, and stretches rumored to hide men who preferred lawlessness to civilization. Mia had worked the telegraph for 5 years, her world bound by wire and code. But she knew better than to underestimate what lay beyond town limits. A shadow fell across the doorway. You, the operator. Mia turned. A man stood framed by sunlight, tall and broad-shouldered, dust clinging to his boots and coat. His hat sat low, shading eyes that studied the room with quiet assessment. Yes, she said, straightening. And you must be the repairman they sent. Bran Cole. His voice was low, steady. Line's been down since last night, so I've gathered. He glanced at the silent machine. Marshall says the break's somewhere east. Rough stretch. Mia lifted her chin. Then I'll ride with you. Bran's brow furrowed. Ma'am, that's not necessary. It is, if you want to find the break quickly. She met his gaze without flinching. I know the line. I've tapped every mile of it with my own hands. I can tell when the signal weakens, where it drifts. You might miss it without me. He studied her for a long moment, as if weighing more than her words. She was used to that. Look, men underestimating her, because she wore skirts instead of spurs. She didn't look away. Finally, he nodded once. All right, but we leave now. By noon, they were riding east, the town shrinking behind them. Mia's horse, Willow, kept pace beside Bran's dark gelding. The land unfolded wide in unforgiving golden grass, broken by stone, the sky endless and indifferent. They rode in silence at first, the kind that felt cautious rather than comfortable. You always ride out with repair crews? Bran asked eventually. No, Mia said, but I always wish I could. This wire, she gestured toward, the poles stretching into the distance. It's my voice. When it goes quiet, so do I. Bran absorbed that. Eyes forward. I fix what breaks. Don't usually think about what it means after. Well, she said softly, it means everything. As the sun dipped lower, they reached the edge of a narrow pass. The wind whispered through stone, carrying the faint hum of tension, like a message half-said. Mia felt it then. Not fear exactly, but awareness. This journey was more than a repair job. Somewhere ahead, the line was broken, and so, perhaps, were they. They made camp just beyond the narrow pass, where the land dipped into a shallow basin, shielded from the worst of the wind. Bran built the fire with practiced efficiency, his movements economical, as if he'd learned long ago that wasted effort could cost more than time. EIA unpacked their provisions, glancing occasionally toward the line of telegraph poles marching eastward. Even here, miles from town, the wire hummed faintly. In her mind and absence, she could feel more than hear. You travel light, she observed, handing Bran a tin cup. Learned, too, he said, pouring coffee. Out here, everything you carry makes itself known. She smiled faintly. That's true of words, too. He looked at her, then curiosity flickering. How so? Mia hesitated. She wasn't used to explaining herself to anyone outside the wire. When you send messages all day, you learn which words matter, which ones are worth the cost. Bran took a sip, eyes thoughtful. Guess I do the same with silence. That earned him a sharper look. Silence can cost plenty. He didn't disagree. They ate as dusk settled, the sky burning orange and violet before fading into stars. Coyotes howled, somewhere distant, their cries echoing through the basin. Mia drew her coat tighter, aware of how exposed they truly were. "We should reach the damaged section tomorrow," Bran said. "If trouble hasn't reached us first." "Trouble always travels faster than wires," Mia replied. He smiled at that. Just barely. Sleep came in fits. Mia lay beneath her blanket, staring at the stars, listening to the crackle of the dying fire and the steady breathing of the horses. She wondered what Bran dreamed of, what kind of life led a man to roam broken lines instead of settling somewhere safe. At dawn, they rode again. The land grew harsher, the farther east they went. The poles leaned at odd angles, the wires sagging like a tired spine. Mia leaned forward in her saddle, eyes narrowing. "Signal weakens here," she said. "I can feel it." Bran slowed his horse. "You sure?" "Yes." She pointed ahead. "Brakes close." They dismounted, near a ravine, where the ground had split, jagged and deep, the result of a recent storm. One of the poles lay snapped at its base, the wire tangled and torn, disappearing into the shadows below. "Well," Bran muttered, "there's our silence." He assessed the damage, already reaching for his tools. Mia watched him work, the surety of his hands, steadying something inside her. This was his language, wood and wire, instead of dots and dashes. As he climbed down carefully to retrieve the fallen wire, a sound carried across the ravine hooves. Bran froze. Mia's heart skipped. They exchanged a look no words needed. Two riders appeared on the ridge above, silhouettes sharp against the sky. Rustlers, maybe. Or worse. Bran motioned Mia back, his hand hovering near his holster. She retreated slowly, pulse pounding, wishing desperately for the comfort of her telegraph, key for the ability to send warning instead of living inside it. The riders paused, scanned the ravine, then moved on. Mia exhaled shakily. "That's why the marshal wanted this fixed fast," Bran said quietly. "Line goes down, men like that grow bolder." He finished, securing the wire, enough for a temporary signal, but night was already creeping in. Full repair will take another day. They camped closer than before, tension binding them tighter than rope. The near danger stripped away some invisible barrier. "Bran," Mia said softly, staring into the fire. "Why do you do this? Travel alone, fixing things that'll break again," he considered. "Because when something works again, even for a while, it matters. Folks rely on it." Mia smiled, warmth blooming where fear had been. "Then maybe we speak the same language, after all." The fire crackled between them, carrying unspoken words upward into the dark messages. Neither yet knew how to send. Morning arrived wrapped in fog. The ravine below them, hidden like a secret, the land wasn't ready to share. Mia brewed coffee while Bran checked the line again, testing the tension, listening in his own way. "It'll hold," he said. For now is sometimes enough," Mia replied. They followed the wire farther east to ensure no other damage lingered. The poles stretched thinner here, more worn, as if the land itself resisted being tied together. Mia dismounted often, placing her fingers against the wire, eyes closing as though she could hear the echo of messages that once traveled through it. Bran watched her with quiet fascination. "You ever wish you could leave it behind?" he asked. "The wire." She shook her head. "No. But sometimes I wish I could say things without it." He understood more than she expected. "I'm better with my hands than my mouth." She laughed softly. Then we're both translators of sorts. They stopped near midday, sharing a simple meal beneath a crooked pole. The sun burned off the fog, revealing endless plains beyond, beautiful, dangerous, honest in its cruelty. That's when the sound came again, closer this time. Hooves. Fast. Bran was on his feet, instantly, pulling Mia behind the pole as three riders crested the rise. Not the same men as before. These wore bandanas high and carried rifles, loose and ready. "Stay quiet," Bran whispered. Mia's heart thundered as the riders slowed, eyes catching on the wire and the horses tethered nearby. "Looks like someone's been fixing what shouldn't be fixed," one of them called. Bran stepped out, calm as stone. Just passing through. The man laughed. Funny, ain't many passin' through here with tools. Mia held her breath. In her mind, she tapped out a message warning. Danger, help, but there was no machine to hear her. The leader's gaze drifted to her. Operator, ain't you? Mia stiffened. Wire's been quiet, he went on. We like it that way. Bran's hand moved faster than thought. A warning shot cracked the air, startling the horses. Chaos followed shouting, gunfire, dust exploding from the ground. Bran grabbed Mia's hand. Run. They bolted toward the ravine. Bullets whizzing past, Mia's skirts snagged, her breath tearing from her lungs as Bran half-dragged her down the slope. They slid behind a rock outcrop, hearts pounding in wild unison. The rustlers didn't follow, not into that terrain. Silence returned, heavier than before. Mia trembled, adrenaline still singing through her veins. Bran knelt before her, hands firm but gentle on her shoulders. You hurt? No, she breathed. Thanks to you. Their faces were close now. Close enough that Mia could see the flecks of gold in his eyes. The worry he hadn't voiced. I should have listened, he said quietly. Should have finished faster. You did what you could, she swallowed. So did I, by coming. Something shifted between them. Then an understanding forged in shared danger. Words felt unnecessary, yet insufficient, all the same. They waited until evening before emerging. Bran worked quickly, completing the repair under fading light. When he finished, Mia hurried to her portable key, tapping a test message down the line. The response came back, but there her breath caught. It's alive. Bran smiled, relief softening his features. Then so are we. They rode back toward camp, exhaustion settling in. That night, the fire burned low and close. Mia found herself leaning into Bran's shoulder, his arm resting lightly around her, as if afraid to assume too much. Bran, she whispered, eyes on the flames. When this is done, what then? He didn't answer right away. Then I go where I'm needed. She nodded, though her chest ached. And I stay. Sending words I can't always say. His arm tightened just slightly. Maybe some messages don't need wire. Mia closed her eyes, letting that unspoken promise carry her into sleep. They broke camp before sunrise, urgency pressing them forward. The line was working again, but only just. Bran wanted to reinforce the repair before they left the territory, completely something sturdier, something meant to last. Mia rode beside him, quieter than before. The events of the previous day lingered between them like an unfinished sentence. You didn't have to come this far, Bran said gently. Once the signal returned, you could have headed back. And leave you alone out here, Mia replied. No. A certainty in her voice surprised them both. They reached a higher ridge where the wire ran exposed against the sky. Bran set to work, bracing a new pole, while Mia steadied the wire, her gloves rough against the metal. The wind whipped around them, tugging at hair and coats alike. As they worked, the sky darkened. A storm rolled in fast, heavy clouds swallowing the horizon. Thunder growled low, a warning impossible to ignore. We need shelter, Bran said. Now. They barely made it to a shallow cave carved into the hillside before rain crashed down in sheets. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the plains in stark white flashes. The world felt reduced to sound and shadow. Inside the cave, damp and close, Mia hugged herself against the cold. Bran removed his coat and draped it around her shoulders without a word. She inhaled the scent of leather and dust him. Thank you, she murmured. He leaned against the rock, watching the storm back there. When those men knew who you were, his jaw tightened. This land doesn't treat women kindly, especially ones with a voice. Mia lifted her chin. Then it needs voices even more. He looked at her fully then, admiration clear. You're braver than most men I know. The thunder boomed again, closer this time. The cave felt smaller, the distance between them narrowing not by choice, but by necessity. Mia, Bran said softly, as if afraid the storm might overhear. I don't stay places. Never have. I know, she replied. Wires don't stay still, either. They stretch. His breath hitched. That's not fair. She smiled sadly. Neither is wanting something you can't keep. Silence fell charged, heavy. The kind of silence Mia recognized as louder than any telegraph click. Bran stepped closer. Out there, he said. I fix things because it's easier than fixing myself. Mia reached out, fingers brushing his hand. You're not broken. Their eyes met, and this time neither looked away. He kissed her, then tentative at first, like a question waiting for an answer. Mia responded without hesitation. Months of unspoken longing she hadn't known she carried, spilling free. The storm raged on, but inside the cave, time slowed to the space between heartbeats. When they finally parted, breathless, reality crept back in. This doesn't change what waits after, Bran said. No, Mia agreed. But it changes us. The storm passed as suddenly as it had come. They emerged into a cleansed world, the air sharp and clear. The wire hummed faintly in the breeze, alive and steady. They finished the final reinforcement together, hands moving in quiet harmony. By the time the sun dipped low, the line stood stronger than before. As they mounted their horses, Red Hollow visible in the distance, Bran hesitated. I don't know how to send this message, he admitted. Mia smiled, heart aching. Then don't send it yet. They rode side by side, the distance to town shrinking, the space between them filled with everything they hadn't said yet. Red Hollow appeared just as the sun settled low, painting the town in amber and dust. The familiar outline of the telegraph office rose ahead, and with it came the weight of endings. They slowed their horses without speaking. The journey that had bound them together was nearly done, and neither knew how to name what came next. At the office, Mia dismounted first. She paused at the door, fingers resting on the worn wood, as if grounding herself in something solid. Bran stayed by the horses, watching her, like a man memorizing a place he might never see again. I should test the line properly, Mia said at last. Bran nodded. I'll wait. Inside, the telegraph office felt alive again. Mia sat at her desk, heart pounding harder than it had during gunfire or storms. She placed her fingers on the key and tapped. The response came back instantly clear, strong, alive. The line was fully restored. Mia exhaled slowly. She should have felt triumph. Instead, she felt something closer to grief. She stepped back outside. Bran removed his hat as she approached. It's done. Then, yes. Her voice was steady, even if her heart wasn't. The towns will be connected again. He smiled faintly. That's good work. So is yours. They stood there, the sounds of town drifting around them, laughter, wagon wheels, distant voices, life continuing, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. I'll head out at first light, Bran said. There's another line down to Days West. Mia nodded, though the words struck like a snapped wire. Of course. Silence stretched between them, the dangerous kind. The kind that leaves things unsent. Mia, Bran said quietly, I meant what I said before. Some messages don't need wire. But I don't know how to live without moving. She met his gaze, eyes shining but dry. And I don't know how to leave this place. These people rely on me. On the line. He stepped closer. Then maybe this is one of those messages that travels a different way. She frowned slightly. What do you mean? Bran reached into his coat and pulled out a small, folded scrap of paper. He held it out to her. What's this? She asked. A schedule, he said. Routes I take. Places I pass through. Telegraph offices along the way. Understanding bloomed slowly. I can't stay, he continued, but I can listen. If you're willing to send. Mia's breath caught. You'd read my messages. If I'd wait for them. Her fingers trembled as she took the paper. All her life, she'd sent words for others' love. Letters, warnings, business deals. Never her own heart. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Bran smiled gently. You'll find the words. You always do. She stepped forward, then, closing the distance. This time, their kiss was slower. Sure, less a question, and more a promise. When they parted, Mia rested her forehead against his chest, memorizing the steady rhythm beneath. Wherever the line runs, she said softly, I'll be there. And wherever it hums, Bran replied, I'll listen. At dawn, she watched him ride out, the sun rising behind him, turning dust into gold. She stayed until he was no more than a shadow against the horizon. Back, inside the office, Mia sat at her desk. She placed her fingers on the key, heart full and steady. She began to tap, not for the town, not for duty, but for herself. The wire carried her words across miles of land, across danger and distance, toward a man who knew how to listen. Somewhere out there, Bran would hear them, and that was enough. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.